Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Solitude and Single Track podcast, where we talk about our lives living off-grid, riding dirt bikes around the Pacific Northwest. Today's episode is going to be a different one. It's going to be a little off-brand from the normal Solitude and Single Track podcast. You know what I have this podcast about, dirt bikes and riding around the Pacific Northwest, blah, blah, blah. This one's going to be a little different. It's going to get up close and personal with my life, because I really feel like this is a topic that needs to be talked about, and I've been avoiding a lot of things in my life because of this. One of them is riding. I'm actually not cleared physically to ride at the moment, and that's going to be for an undetermined amount of time. So I want to talk about it because this is a subject that doesn't get talked about, and I guess I will go ahead and tell you what it is instead of being so vague and weird. Trigger warning, this episode is going to be about pregnancy and miscarriage. If that's an uncomfortable topic or you don't want to hear about it, I suggest not listening to this episode because I'm going to get into detail about my life and my journey with pregnancy and, my miscarriage that I am currently going through. And, I know some dudes listen to this podcast and might be thinking, oh my God, a woman of the podcast, of course, she turned into some stupid women thing. And you know what? Maybe I am. Maybe I am just this once. And it's because this, like I said, is a subject that is so taboo and it's so, I don't know, it's hidden. It's hidden from the public view, and people feel like it's a shameful thing, and it should not be a shameful thing because it's so, so common. And I didn't realize it was common until I started going through it. And I can, I'll talk more about it, but this is about my current health journey and my current health issues and the emotional journey that I am currently experiencing and trying to get through. So buckle up and hold on because this is going to be a wild ride. And if I can help one person who has gone through this or a family, if I can make them feel more comfortable or more, I don't know, if I can just help somebody out by talking about my experience, then I have done my part. Like, that's the whole reason I started this podcast. If I can help other people by telling you about my experience in life, that's the whole goal. You know what I mean? So yeah, then I've done my part. So I will jump into it. Let me backtrack a little bit. In my last podcast, I talked about the race that I competed in. It was my first women's expert race, and my second race that I've ever done. And I had a pretty tough time. I lost my contacts mid-race, which kind of screwed up my timing. And I was also dealing with a lot of mental stuff because my dad had just passed away like a couple weeks before the race. So I gave it my best shot, and the odds did end up being in my favor. I won, but I kind of still feel like I didn't deserve the win just because of the circumstances around it. And I know I didn't ride my best, blah, blah, blah. We all beat ourselves up over the stupid things in life. So anyways, I did this race, and what I didn't know while I was racing was that I was actually pregnant. And I found that out a couple weeks later. And during the time of the race, I was only 3 or 4 weeks pregnant. And it wasn't something that I had been expecting. We hadn't been actually, trying to have a baby. We weren't trying to be pregnant. It happened. And yeah, and that's, it was kind of wild. And I found out, and the way I found out was kind of funny because it has to do with dirt bikes. A lot of people will find out because they're sick or because they missed their period. And, I just had this feeling that I was pregnant. I was riding with a friend and we were doing some drills, and I just could not get myself to do these drills properly. And I was doing clutch up drills and wheelies, and I just could not get the confidence to get my wheel up very well. And I just kept getting tired. I was getting exhausted, and it was hot, but not hot enough to where it was full body exhausting me. And after the drills, we went on a trail ride, and when I really thought something was wrong was when I could not push myself for speed. And I'm not talking I couldn't push myself to go fast. I could not push myself to get faster than my comfort. I wasn't even going my comfort pace. I normally cruise around a certain speed, and I could not even get up to the speed. There's this impassable wall in my mind that would not let me go any faster. It was very strange. I can't even explain it. It was full stop. You can't go any faster than this. You're governed. This is it. And I had the thought of, oh my God, what if I'm pregnant? And I don't know why I had that thought. I guess I was 2 days late for my period at that point. And by late, I mean like it should have come 2 days before that. My periods are kind of off the wall. I've been having some issues where my periods are super inconsistent. So it wasn't a weird thing for it to be 2 days out of sync. So the next day I still felt off. Like I just felt like there was something wrong within my body. And so I took a test, and lo and behold, it was positive, very slightly positive. You know, the control line was solid, and then the other line was a little faint, but it was positive. So I took another one, still positive. And then I had this persistent cramp that just wouldn't go away. And it kind of felt like I wanted to start my period, but it wasn't bad, and it just didn't go away. And so anyways, yeah, so I found out I was pregnant, and like I said, having a baby was not on my radar. And we've talked about it. Yeah, like we want to have kids eventually, but right now it's just not a really good time. And we want to, plan it out better. But we weren't exactly like not trying either. Like I haven't been on birth control for 3 years of any type. Like I used to be on an IUD 5 years ago. I got my IUD taken out, and then I was on the pill for a couple of years, and then decided that I just wanted to be off nothing. So we weren't trying, but we weren't not trying. It was like if it happens, it happens kind of thing. And obviously, like, I recognize how babies are made. So, it was a surprise, but not really. So I was at work when I took that test. So I bagged up the test, and on my drive home, I'm like crying and trying to figure out like, oh my God, like what the fuck are we going to do? Like we just remodeled our trailer. Like, what am I going to tell Taylor? What are we going to do? Like we remodeled this trailer, and we did not think about having another person living in here with us. And so my emotions are just everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, like, can I still ride? Like, what does the rest of my year look like? Like, is this going to affect my work? Is this going to affect my volunteer job? So many things are running through my mind. And I didn't worry about if Taylor was going to be happy or not, because he has wanted a kid for a while. And so that was fine. And yeah, it was just so overwhelming. And, all these movies and the books, they all portray women, like when they find out they're pregnant, they look at the 2 lines on the stick and they're like, oh my God, I'm so happy. Yay. And I was not, I don't want to say I was unhappy, but I wasn't like filled with this immense joy. I was fucking scared. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like a kid. I felt like I was 16 again, and it was weird. It was a really weird feeling. So, yeah, I mean, like, our lives are about to change tremendously, and my life in particular is about to really change, because this is going to change, like, what I do. Like, this is going to change how I stay active. This is going to change so many things about my life. Like, I have some races and some trials planned, and now those are out of the question. I want to do the D100 in Odessa, Washington next year. That's out of the question because that's in April. And yeah, sure, I guess at this point my due date's in January, but by April I'm not going to be able to ride with an infant, and I know that sounds so selfish, but like, this is my life. My life revolves around being outdoors and volunteering and dirt bikes. And what do I do now? Like, we just started this business. Like, we're not rich people by any means. We don't have all of this money. It was scary. So, like, was I happy? Yeah, I'm happy. I like to think that I would be a great mom, at least a better mom than my mom was. But there's so many other emotions and so many other questions that I had that nobody really talks about. And the more I research, the more it's like, I think it's okay for you to be so overwhelmed with other feelings besides happiness, as a new mom. Because like, the world is scary, dude. The world is fucking scary. And we're bringing a whole human being into this world, into this scary fucking world. That alone is anxiety producing. So like, I have that going. It's just, there's so many things. And then also, like, what if I suck at momming? Like, what if I'm a terrible mom? And like, not saying that like I want to be a horrible mom, but just what if my kids hate me? And then also, Like, my dad just fucking died. Like, what the fuck, Dad? You couldn't have waited like 3 more fucking weeks to croak before you croak? Like, you were about to be a grandpa and now you're gonna miss out on this? And like, that had been a conversation about having kids before, because my parents had me late, and so my parents were older. And so that was a question in our mind too, was like, oh, we should probably have kids before your dad dies. Lo and behold, that doesn't matter now because my dad died. But yeah, that's really crappy. My dad didn't have a great relationship with his dad, but all of my cousins did, and because I'm the youngest cousin, and they all said that, oh, he would have, Grandpa Bob would have loved you, he loved horses, and he was like adventurous, you and him would have gotten along. And my dad said that all the time, and I had always hoped to not have my child experience that, because like I don't want to say I feel a sense of loss, but I feel like I missed out on meeting my grandfather, and I did not want my child to go through that. But even if my dad only met my child once, that would be fantastic. But, now he's gone, and that hope is gone, and it's too late. But anyways, that's a whole sad story for another day. You can't predict when our time is up, and that's unfortunately, a heavy subject. But yeah, so we had to think about what we're going to do next. At this point that I found out, I was probably 6 weeks along, going just based off my last cycle. And there's so many articles, because like we were like, okay, what do we do? Like, obviously, like, I'm pregnant, like what's the next steps? I've never done this before, and like the first instinct was, at least for Taylor, was I should tell my mom. And I'm like, okay, so let's look up and see like when people normally announce pregnancies. And so many articles talk about waiting until after your first trimester or your first ultrasound to announce your pregnancy, because miscarriages are so common in your first trimester. And the more we thought about it, it was like, fuck, dude, like my dad just died. Like, we don't know when people's lives are going to end. Let's just tell everybody. So we started telling people, starting with Taylor's mom, who, bless her heart, has wanted grandkids for so long, and we just keep telling her, oh, the dog's your grandkid, this is your grandkid, this is the best you're going to get. And we call her and tell her, and she's like, what? So surprised. And it was exciting. It was so exciting to tell our families and close friends, and it made it feel real. It made it feel like, okay, this is happening. Like, we have 9 months to figure this out. We start talking about names and start looking up like off-road strollers and all kinds of crazy stuff. All the things you think about having a baby. And I start doing research and like finding, hospitals and looking for like a good doctor. And yeah, it's just crazy. It all happened so fast, and I apologize if you're a family or if you're a friend and this is the first time you're hearing about my pregnancy and all of this. It literally happened so quick. So keep listening, and it'll all come together. It'll all make sense. So yeah, it's actually amazing how our bodies know what is wrong before we can logically put the pieces together in our mind. And I think like as human beings, we overthink things. A few days after we had started telling people that I was pregnant, I had this terrible graphic dream about having a miscarriage. Horrible. It was this horrible, frightening thing. I woke up, my heart was racing, and I had really bad pain in my abdomen. And every alarm bell in my head went off, and I got up and I went to the bathroom and I wiped, and there was blood. And it wasn't just a little bit of blood, it was a lot of blood. And immediately I knew that there was something that wasn't right. I called around, I found, God bless Planned Parenthood. And if you are not a Planned Parenthood stan, like you will be after this story, because they were the only people that could get me in same day. I explained what was going on, and they're like, oh yeah, we know what, we have a 3:00, come in at 3, come into the, this location. And so I did. But that particular day, everything seems to compound. And on that day that I started bleeding and I had the feeling that something was bad, it's our busy season at work, and we own a music store. And so we work with a lot of schools, and school's just now getting out. So I am driving around picking up all the summer repair for instruments, and went to this one school to pick up 40 very, very large instruments. And so I'm driving all around Portland and squeezing tubas into my minivan. And all the while, like, I'm in so much pain, like the pain just increasingly getting worse. And I just have to, you know, keep a smile on my face and keep driving around picking up instruments. And like during my drive, like the bleeding got so severe, like I had to stop a couple times and change my pad because it was, sorry, I know that's gross, but like this is like what like really, really tipped me off. Like, oh, you know, this is happening. I'm miscarrying. I had to change my pad like twice within 2 hours. So it was like once an hour I was bleeding enough to have to change my pad. So anyways, later on, went to the doctor. They did an ultrasound and they tested my hormones. My hormone levels were super low for as far along I was going to be. I think they were like, the HCG level was 144 and I was 6 weeks along, and it should be much higher than that at 6 weeks. And they did an ultrasound. They could not find anything on the ultrasound. And I explained to the doctor what had happened, and she basically said, I think this is a probable complete miscarriage, but to rule out an ectopic pregnancy, let's have you come in a couple days and we will test your levels again and make sure that your levels are going down appropriately. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I didn't really think about the possibility of an ectopic pregnancy being a thing. Like, I figured I'd already miscarried based on everything I'd seen and read online. Like, it was done. It's gone. But I'll come back in for a test anyway. So if you don't know what an ectopic pregnancy is, it is a pregnancy that occurs outside of the uterus when a fertilized egg gets confused and attaches somewhere, like normally the fallopian tube, or, very rarely an ovary, or even outside of the uterus and just floats around the abdomen somewhere. That is always an unviable pregnancy. You cannot remove the pregnancy and put it somewhere else. It's just not viable. And if it grows too large, it can cause, internal bleeding. Like, a baby cannot grow like attached to the outside of a uterus. A baby has to be in the uterus. And if it's in the fallopian tube, like if it gets big enough, like the tube, it'll explode. It'll rupture and you can bleed out and die. So ectopic pregnancies can be life-threatening. So this is, even though they're not very common, it's still a concern when you can't find the pregnancy on an ultrasound and somebody like me is presenting all of these symptoms. And this has been an actual like kind of fear of mine since I was young. I got an IUD first when I was 16 years old. And, they tell you if you get pregnant while you have an IUD, you probably will have an ectopic pregnancy. At least that's what I was told. So I've always been terrified of that happening, but I haven't had an IUD for 5 years. And, it was not on my mind. I don't have any of the risk factors for an ectopic pregnancy. I was like, you know what? I've already miscarried. I'm not worried about it. I'm in the clear. I lost it. There's no longer a future baby. All this planning and excitement, it turned into grief. I lost my dad, and now I just lost this, I want to say baby. It was really an embryo. It was, barely along at this point. But I lost my dad and I lost my baby. And it sucked. Like, we'd already ordered some moto-related onesies for her official announcement. We got one that said "from the bottle to the throttle" with like a little dirt bike on it. It was really cute. And now we have no use for this. It sucks. So a few days later, I go in to Planned Parenthood. Oh, and this is a whole different story. So, oh my God. So I went to Planned Parenthood because they could get me in. I was not having an abortion. I was having a miscarriage and I needed care. And it is so difficult to get in for an ultrasound if you are under 13 weeks. And every other doctor's like, you should go to the ER. And I'm like, I'm not going to fucking go to the ER. Like, I just need to get checked out. So anyways, I go back to Planned Parenthood and I'm going to tell you which one I went to because, it really sucked. I went to the Planned Parenthood in downtown Beaverton, Oregon, and I pull up and it's 8:00 in the morning. And there's pro-life protesters standing outside the building. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot right now. I cannot deal with this. So I get out of my car and I'm shaking because I know, like, if somebody talks to me, like, I might go to jail. Like, I will punch a bitch. And these ladies come up to me and they're like, you don't have to do this. There's other options. Did you know that God loves you? Let me give you some information. And I turn on this lady and I'm like, Number one, don't talk to me. Number two, I am having a active miscarriage right now. I just lost my fucking baby, and you're gonna come up to me assuming that I'm having an abortion? Fuck you. Fuck you, fuck your organization, and shove it up your ass, and I hope you have a great fucking day. And she was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And I'm like, that's exactly why you should not be approaching people going into Planned Parenthood, because you don't fucking know what they're going through. Anyways, I get my testing done. I leave. The protesters do not harass me again. They actually walk to the other side of the street and they do not talk to me. And thank God, because I probably actually would have gone to jail. So that was my story with Planned Parenthood. And again, like, they were the office that were kind and compassionate and were willing to fit me into their schedule for this, probable emergency. So later on that day, I get a call from a different doctor from Planned Parenthood, and she opens the phone call with, congratulations, everything is looking great, and your levels actually tripled. And I'm like, what? Like, this isn't good. Or is it good? Maybe it's good. And I'm like, wait a second. Hold the phone. You just told me, or another doctor just told me that I was miscarrying, that I've actually already miscarried. And she's like, well, in early pregnancy, we don't know for sure because we can't see anything on the ultrasound. So right now you technically have a pregnancy of unknown location, but your levels are increasing as they should be for a viable pregnancy. So I want you to come back in a week and get another ultrasound and get your levels checked again. But I think that your pregnancy is progressing properly. Yeah, I was completely flabbergasted, to say the least. So I didn't even know what to do, but I knew that at this point I did not want to go back to Planned Parenthood, and nothing against Planned Parenthood other than the fact that I was so uncomfortable with being confronted by protesters who tried to tell me that I was a terrible, shitty person for getting an abortion when I was actually having a miscarriage. Really upset me. So, I called around to get a different appointment and also a second opinion, because it also kind of was weird that somebody called. I don't know if she didn't read my notes, but the fact that she started off the conversation with, oh, congrats, everything looks great. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I called around several different clinics. Nobody could get me in until like a month later. And I was like, shit, well, I guess I'm going to have to stick with Planned Parenthood, until I got this one women's clinic who fit me in for the same day that I had an ultrasound scheduled with Planned Parenthood, because they agreed that, waiting a week was going to be the best chance of seeing an embryo on an ultrasound. So during this whole time, my bleeding had lessened and I had less pain, but I still had this recurring pain on my right side. And I didn't think anything of it because it wasn't bad, and it came and went. It wasn't constant. It would just come and then it would go. And it was like a little bit of pain in my pelvic area, like right by my hip bone, that kind of like wrapped around into my abdomen. And I continued riding dirt bikes as normal. I continued doing all my normal stuff, but I noticed that I would get tired really fast. And if I did really hard stuff, I would get more pain in that right side. Like the right side pain seemed to be aggravated by movement. So the day before my scheduled ultrasound, I had a phone call from my doctor's office who was like, hey, just wanted to confirm your appointment. Also wanted to check in. I was reading your chart and just wanted to see how you're feeling. I'm like, oh, I feel okay. Other than I have this right-sided pain that kind of radiates from my hip bone down to my back into my abdomen, but like it isn't bad. Like I don't have to take anything for it. I think that's kind of normal. And she was like, that's actually not normal. And the reason I called you was not just to confirm your appointment, but to check in on you because I saw your chart and I have a feeling this is an ectopic pregnancy and I think I need you to go to the emergency room as soon as you can. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the emergency room. And she's like, no, like you really should. She's like, you should have somebody drive you. Do not wait until tomorrow to do your ultrasound because tomorrow could be too late. I think that you are having an ectopic pregnancy and if it ruptures, you could die. And I'm like, oh, she didn't sugarcoat it. She just straight up said that I could die. And I'm like, well, shit. So I took it kind of seriously and I went to the ER. And I told them, when I got there, I'm like, my pain is not severe. It's just a little bit of pain, but here's everything that I've been dealing with. And they got me in like within 15 minutes of my arrival. And the fact that they were so like so concerned about it. Like, that made me terrified. Like, they got me in, they immediately put an IV in my arm, got me down to imaging, and I was just the whole time hoping that it was nothing. Like, this whole trip, it was just a precaution, and everything was going to be everything was fine. Best case scenario, everything looks great, and I'm still pregnant, and I can continue on. Worst case, it's ectopic. Yeah, the doctor came in after all my tests and after several hours, and they told me they had found a 3.8 centimeter mass near my right ovary, suspected in my fallopian tube, which was assumed to be an ectopic pregnancy. They could not identify like a gestational sac. They found something that looked like it, but they couldn't like see it clearly. But I had a mass. And 3.8 centimeters is like golf ball sized, y'all. Like, that's not small. I guess not golf ball, like ping pong ball. Anyways, that's not a small mass. And they gave me some options. They did give me the option. They explained that because my levels were low at that point, went from 144 to 204, because my HCG level was low, they would feel comfortable treating with a medication versus surgery. And the surgery is like not super invasive, it's laparoscopic, but it would remove my entire fallopian tube and could possibly, cause fertility problems in the future. Versus taking a shot of methotrexate, which is a form of chemotherapy. And she consulted with several doctors, and this doctor had another doctor come in, spoke to him and said, "Hey, how do you feel about this?" And he's like, I feel comfortable treating with methotrexate. So I went with it. I said the methotrexate was the way I wanted to go. Save my tube, I guess. And yeah, and it was, I had no idea at that time, like, the potency of this drug, until the nurse that I had been talking to came in fully dressed in hazmat. The medication was this bright yellow-orange liquid. Am I going to explode when you give me this? Like, why'd you just come back in here with hazmat? He's like, well, this medication stops cell division, and it can cause fertility problems. I'm like, oh, cool. He's like, so, we have to dress in hazmat to make sure it doesn't get on us. I'm like, great, fantastic. Anyways, he was a really, really cool nurse. He told me about how his wife went through several miscarriages before they had their children, and he sincerely expressed how sorry he was and how hard it was for him and his wife to go through a similar situation, and how they didn't even know how common miscarriages were until she experienced them and started talking to people. It's something that is, you feel so alone because you don't think anybody can relate to you, but there's actually a lot more people that can relate than you think. That was kind of it. I did my my methotrexate shot, and since it's a form of chemotherapy, the side effects are essentially the same side effects as chemotherapy. So I got kind of sick. I was not very hungry, no appetite, so tired, and I had more cramping. And actually a couple days after that, I had some heavier bleeding and some really, really severe cramping, and I went back to the hospital, and they did another ultrasound, and it was shrinking, and my levels had stayed the same, but they didn't rise, so everything was looking good. But per the doctor's orders, I am continuing not to do any strenuous physical activity, so heavy lifting, and I did ask specifically about dirt bike riding, and she was like, I wouldn't. She's like, anything you do, like fast movements or pulling up or anything, it can cause that tube to rupture because your mass is so large that it is right there. And I'm like, oh fuck. So I can't do anything. No dirt bike riding. I can't even have sex. I can't drink alcohol. I can't do shit. I have to sit around and do light duty stuff, and that's really difficult for me to do. So I have to do that until my levels go back down to normal. This would have been a lot harder, except the fact that this drug gives you such bad side effects that I honestly have not really had the desire to go riding until the last couple days. The last couple days I've actually felt pretty good. But I've had no appetite, no energy, just absolutely zero desire to do anything. I felt depressed, I felt sick, I felt horrible. It's been really difficult to just walk around feeling like I'm just this ticking time bomb, just waiting for either this thing to be reabsorbed into my body and me to be okay, or for this thing to rupture and then end up needing surgery anyways. And the scary thing too is that like there's no like specific timeline for being able to do anything. It's just based on how your body processes all of this and how long it takes to have your pregnancy hormone levels go back down to 0, which essentially means that the mass is now gone. You know, and as far as like my fertility, I have no idea what the future of my fertility looks like. Once you have one ectopic pregnancy, you are more likely to have more of them. So that's another fear, is this happening all over again. I have had to go back into the doctor every few days to get my levels checked and so they can keep an eye on everything. So I've been a frequent flyer to the hospital in the last 2 weeks, and that's been fantastic. The last time I had my levels checked was a few days ago, and I was at 18 HCG, which I'm supposed to be back down to 0 or below 5. So I'm really, really close. And so I have one more appointment on Thursday to see if my levels will be back to normal and I can ride again. And like I said, fortunately, I have not felt like I wanted to ride up until the last few days. There was a ISDE, an enduro race that happened out here that I wanted to compete in. And this was one of the races that I was talking about that I wanted to do. And I was really sad because I couldn't. I was not cleared to ride. So I went and watched and took some pictures and some videos, and it made me, gave me the FOMO and stuff. But yeah, so I really just wanted to tell everybody about my journey, and my journey's not even over yet. And just to let people know that if you have gone through this or you're going through this, you are not alone. This happens, and it sucks. And it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry. I know I am. I'm pretty upset about it. Like it sucks. I've had so much crap happen to me that I just don't understand. But, you just got to keep going. You got to keep trucking along. That's how life is. Life can suck, and then life gets better. And I was talking to my friend the other day, and she said, that there's a saying, bad things come in threes. And so, my dad died. I'm going through this ectopic pregnancy, and I guess my third thing just happened a couple days ago that wasn't even like in my podcast script because it just happened. I had to call 911 for somebody who had gotten like severely injured, and I was driving my car down to go meet the ambulance because we were, out in the woods on a logging road. So I was going to go meet the ambulance and make sure they got to the person that was injured safely. So I'm going down the road, and I thought the ambulance was going to be like an hour, and the ambulance was coming up this logging road. So I wasn't going fast. So I pulled over onto the side to let the ambulance go by me. And when I turned my wheel to get back on the road, I must have pulled over too far on the soft shoulder of this gravel road, and the gravel just sunk and my car tipped over. And I drive a Toyota FJ Cruiser, and thank God I have 4-wheel drive, and I was stuck and I could not get out. And I'm like, I'm going to have to walk the 5 miles back up the road to get help after I was trying to get the ambulance. So I put it in reverse, and it actually moves. I'm like, okay, great. So I really reverse, and I hear a big crunch, and I'm like, well, that sucks. And then the car rights itself. I turn the wheel, and I'm able to right the car again and keep going and turn around. What I did was when I had tipped and then backed up, I had my motorcycle hitch carrier on the back of the car, and it was stuck into the side of because like I was on the cliff wall side, so like the roof of my car was touching the cliff, like it had tipped over, like I don't know, it not all the way to the side, but mostly. I had 3 wheels that were touching the ground at least. When I backed up, the cliff side caught the hitch carrier and bent it into my rear bumper and my exhaust, so it pulled my exhaust out, bent the fuck out of my hitch carrier, and pulled my bumper out. But all in all, not horrible. We got the exhaust fixed. The motorcycle carrier is totaled, unfortunately. My car got out without a scratch. And yeah, so, I mean, it could have been worse. My husband is not super thrilled at me. He's like, you should have just walked and gotten help. And I'm like, no, it was actually kind of funny. It was that story is more funny than upsetting, but also it kind of sucks because now I have to spend money on a new hitch carrier, and that blows. But such is life, such is lessons, and yeah. So when I am able to ride again, I am going to do the whole course that this enduro took place on, because apparently there's some pretty gnarly stuff on it, and I really want to do that, and I am so excited to ride again. And I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed, that I am cleared to ride on Thursday this week. And that would be fantastic. I would be so happy to have all of this just finally get put behind me and let me move on with my life, because right now I just feel like my whole life is in limbo. I can't do anything. Like, I have to have Taylor help me do stuff that I can normally do, and I hate that. I hate feeling helpless, and I hate feeling like something has control over everything I do. So, once I get control of my life back, I am going to hit it hard, and I'm going to work on dirt bikes, and yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to move on. I am going to let my body take the time it needs to recover. I'm going to let my mind and my heart take the time that it also needs to recover, because this has been, I know I'm talking calmly about it and I'm making jokes about it, but it's been really difficult for me to deal with, and the only way that I'm going to get through this is to ride my dirt bike. So yeah, anyways, that's it for today. I appreciate all of my listeners, and especially the ones who stuck with me on this this particular episode, because this has been really difficult to talk about, and it's not one that I wanted to. It's not something I wanted to make, but I've really been feeling compelled to talk about it, because not a whole lot of people talk about it. So hopefully if it helps somebody, great. If you think it's annoying, also great. I guess, sorry. And I'm not really that sorry, but yeah. Anyways, I hope to see y'all out on the trail again soon. If you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions for podcast episodes, DM me on Instagram. I am at anderson.adventures, or at solitude and single track, all spelled out. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, y'all, we'll catch you later.